So let's dive into some of these stocks, starting with Regeneron. Regeneron is the one that Trump has said he's really excited about. This is a 32-year-old company, a biotech company. They're based in Tarrytown, New York. It's a $64 billion market cap. They do have 7 FDA-approved medicines and a pretty extensive existing pipeline. So Regeneron's technology produces fully human antibodies, and it's conducting very significant genetic sequencing efforts. So the company has had $1.9 billion in revenue in the second quarter of the fiscal year 2020. That's a 24% increase year over year. And their investigational antibody cocktail that they call REGN-COV2. This is a combination of 2 monoclonal antibodies. And Regeneron is conducting a seamless phase 1, 2, 3 trial. So that actually includes 4 different trials. Its antibody cocktail has not yet received an emergency use authorization from the FDA, but it has requested it. And in the video that Trump tweeted on Tuesday, he said he's pushing for this authorization. He calls the treatment a cure and says, I've authorized it, but we're waiting on that news from the actual FDA. The company said last night that it had submitted this request. So just to start off, get our arms around this antibody treatment, Brian, could you explain the difference between an antibody treatment cocktail that is produced by Regeneron and an infusion of convalescent plasma from recovered COVID-19 patients? What's the difference?
So the difference is where it's made. So the antibodies from the convalescent patients is actually made in the patients themselves that have recovered. And so you're taking the plasma out of the patients and concentrating the antibodies and then giving those to the patient. The Regeneron's antibodies are made in a laboratory, so they're expressed in some sort of mammalian cell line in an incubator, and then it gets grown up and then purified out of the cells there. And so the difference is that for the plasma, you don't really know. Each batch is going to be slightly different because it's coming from different patients. Where the Regeneron's treatment, you know exactly what those 2 antibodies are and where exactly they bind on the virus.
Okay, it's more reliable, more standardized. Can you also scale it and get more of it? You don't have to depend on people coming in to give blood.
Yeah. I mean, to give plasma, giving plasma is slightly different than giving blood.
Sure.
But yeah. You definitely. I mean, in theory, I mean, we know how to make antibodies. It's trivial at this point to manufacture antibodies. And so that's, the biggest problem here is the amount of reactor space that we have in terms of making, we have to stop making other drugs to make this new drug or build a new plant, but that's obviously that takes years. So I think that's the limiting factor there in terms of manufacturing, is just finding enough reactor space and maybe cutting back on making other drugs, so that other antibody drugs, so that you have the reactors to make these antibody drugs.
Okay, so there's kind of an opportunity cost there. Gotcha.